Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of the Scenic View podcast. Jonathan Owens, Communications Director here at Scenic, and we have Executive Director Artis Watkins, Government Relations Director Suzanne Beasley, and podcast producer Sam Klein in the house. So get ready for a great episode. So we decided to change it up a little bit on you guys this week. Our usual 2 or 3 listeners will be like, "What is going on? Am I on the right episode?" Welcome, everyone. Our Scenic studio is ready and willing for any sponsorship opportunities that may come about. Today is Thursday.
I still think Peeps should sponsor this podcast after the Easter podcast.
Well, they're out of money now. They wasted all their money on
Easter.
No, they should have more money.
Oh, that's
because
right.
We all just spent all our money.
Maybe they're squirreling it away.
They're saving it for next year to make more Peeps.
Yeah.
Before we get into the legislature, can we talk about that? Why would something called Peeps
Yeah.
be, what are they, like bunnies?
They're like little chickens.
No, they don't look like chickens.
No,
They look like
bunnies.
bunnies.
They're little
Yeah, like they're little, I think they're like
Little duckies.
ducks, like Pete. Like,
But there's some bunny ones. I know.
They're
I've
the
seen
bunny
Yeah, we
ones.
have
That
bunnies.
makes no sense.
They're
Pete.
special for Easter. They make those ones especially for Easter. All the other ones are little chickies.
Wait, do they make Peeps year round though? Like, do you
Yeah.
get
Yes,
Peeps any
there's
other?
little
people who
chickies.
actively
Oh,
look for
okay.
them. Yeah.
I've never seen them anytime but Easter.
Anyway, Peeps, we're here.
We digress.
We're already off the rails.
I know. But I really wanted to ask that. I would
Well,
have forgotten.
Today is Thursday, May 1st, and you know what that means.
It's gonna be me.
It's gonna be me.
I was like,
That's
what
like
is
an
he
overused.
doing?
That's the overused
We're so cheap.
internet meme.
And punchy. It's been
And
a long
we may get taken off of YouTube for using that.
Okay.
But
See how long the clip is. If
Yeah.
it's
Oh,
less
dear.
than 7 seconds, we're good. We don't need to worry about it.
So one of my favorite podcasts always comes out on Saturdays, and the first thing that the host says is, "What a week." And I think that is apropos for us this week, right? Artis got down in the dirt with some folks, and she's got her thumbs are sore from her Twitter wars. And we're
I only have one little Twitter skirmish going right now, which I haven't done in a long time. It feels good.
yeah,
Right
it's
now,
good to be
is
back in the
key
game.
word.
We were just talking last week about the toxic nature of social media, but every now and then that's just
It's a release.
that's a fun toxin, just like Coca-Cola.
You just don't
Nothing
know.
personal, Coca-Cola.
It seems like back in the good old days, though, you knew who you were fighting. Now it just seems like it could be like a bot in Turkey that you're fighting, you know?
Well,
May not be a
but
real
see,
thing.
that's the point. It really kind of doesn't matter. And if somebody says their location is North Carolina,
Yeah.
then it could be, because most people would say like Havelock or Mebane, but
Or there's random
Doesn't
numbers that
matter.
you can't even read.
Yeah. I guess we'll start like we always do with a little update on what's going on with the state budget, since that's such a big, important thing for us. What's going on, Suzanne?
It absolutely is. Chairman Donnie Lambeth announced on the floor of session on Tuesday that all the appropriations chairs have received their spending targets and that they hope to have their House proposal out by Memorial Day. So yeah, it's rolling.
Okay.
It's rolling.
Now, when you say out by Memorial Day, do you mean voted on and approved by the board?
We'll see.
Because I'm like, my wife asked me today if I could take off that Friday to go to the beach. So I need to know.
Well,
Can
they
you ask someone down
generally
there?
release it on a Monday, so it may drop Memorial Day Monday.
Okay. So ruin
I
the
don't
whole
know. Or
weekend.
it's give or take.
I'll
He
say,
wasn't
sounds
giving
like
a
it
solid
would.
date. Just
there have been times
Right.
we've heard maybe Memorial Day and it was
Yeah.
Labor Day. So,
Yeah.
I mean, you don't know.
Yeah.
Go. You should go.
Do not plan your life around it. Yeah.
You
We
should
don't
go.
have any details on that either.
No,
right?
not yet.
Okay.
Not yet.
So stay tuned on that one. But we do have 2 of the 3 proposals out. Neither one were great for our members. So we're hoping for big things from the House.
Yeah.
This week, Artis went viral, as I mentioned, for her testimony at the House State and Local Government Committee meeting. What day was that?
That was
Tuesday.
Tuesday? you really let them have it there.
Okay.
Should we play it? Should we stick it into the...
Well, first let's set the stage.
Okay.
There was a bill that affected the rights, literally every employment right that the employees of a certain agency, it's the auditor's agency in this particular bill, but if this bill passed, taking all their rights, every agency would want that. And nobody articulated a need or a reason for taking those rights. And it would make every single employee at that agency a political appointee, inserting politics directly, instead of merit, directly into the game. So instead of hearing from people before the vote, they literally took comment after the vote, which I had not seen. I thought I'd seen it all. I've seen committees not take comment at all. That's a bummer too. Because, the public comment is the people's house, and you kind of want the people's voice to be heard, and we speak for an awful lot of people. But I've seen no comment allowed, but I've never been told, okay, you can now speak your member's piece after the vote was already done.
Because what's the point?
And so that's what happened to set the stage.
So was it set up that way, or was it like just, we're going to talk about this bill, and then someone said, oh, let's just vote on it?
Well, Sam was there.
What it was at the beginning, they said we have so many bills to go through that we're going to push public comment to the very end. And I thought that meant they're going to push it to the very end and they'll vote after the public comment is made and after they've gone over each of the bills.
Like the
and
very
questions
end,
were asked.
Like the very end of the discussion on that.
Exactly.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And I think that was probably your assumption too.
Yeah, but they just meant it literally.
And
like
then,
after we vote, maybe you can talk.
And then they would say, okay, does anyone have any other questions? No? Okay. And someone would make a motion and vote right then and there. And that was my first committee meeting I've ever been in.
Welcome.
It was intense.
It was not a good look.
Yeah. I remember my first committee meeting down there. I was so out of place. Like I didn't know what to do, didn't know where to put my hands. And but yeah, it's nerve-wracking. And one of the parts of your speech, I guess, when you finally did get to comment that people reacted to was the part where you said that the auditor's office had said we were going along with this change, right?
So what happened, and this apparently didn't go over so well with the person, someone from the auditor's office did speak on the bill and said, Sammy, help me here. It was something along the lines of, and we've talked to Scenic. About
yes, it was something along the lines of, we have come to an agreement with Scenic and made adjustments.
I don't know that he used the word agreement, but he certainly left the very strong impression that we had worked together to come to a meeting of the minds, as I called it, and that we agreed to something, which was patently false. And the problem is there had been a previous miscommunication with another committee's member who felt he was led to believe that we were on board with something that the office wanted. And so I took great exception, obviously, to that happening. So that's why that was said.
So let's step back and explain the bill a little bit. I know you did at the beginning, but the SHRA is the State Human Resources Act. And in it is a lot of the protections that keep employees from retaliation or
just being
punishment.
Fired for, you could come in and I don't think you've been supportive to me in my re-election campaign, so you got to go. Quite literally, if they're political appointees, they serve at the pleasure of the politician.
Yeah.
And so our point as an organization was these agencies do not belong to politicians. They belong to the people. And so you shouldn't be able to say every single person in this agency. Now, some positions, you do have a need for them to be a political appointee, one of your people. The positions most close to the lobbyist and the finance person and all
communication.
that.
And we asked that question.
Yes.
I mean, we've had conversations with the auditor's staff, and we asked that question where there's some specific positions that you need to be exempt, because we can talk about that.
They already have, I think, 20 exempt positions in the auditor's office, and they're generally for things like policy making exempt positions. The people that, again, who would expect themselves to be at the will and at the pleasure of that politician.
Right.
So you told me even this week some things that kind of opened my eyes to what the dangers are of making everyone exempt. Can you talk about like how it used to be, how people used to have to work for?
Yeah, we've talked about it so much this week amongst ourselves. Back in the 50s, even after that, when everybody was considered exempt, everybody was a political appointee, there were politicians running agencies who would tell people, I need you to donate to my campaign or go put these signs out in the yard. And they had to do that to keep their job.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And it was what we were calling the Wild West of state government. And state government evolved over time. So people were given rights, not just because it's the right thing to do if you want to keep good quality employees is to give them rights, but because otherwise it was our experience that politicians would end up abusing the privilege of everybody serving at the pleasure. Now, are we saying Auditor Bullock would? No, and that's the whole point. I don't know the man. And most of North Carolina doesn't know the man. We should never make policy around a person.
Yeah.
And
No, because we've made the point this week that Auditor Bullock may be great. He may have a great vision for this. He may be great, but the next auditor that you bring in may not be.
And they've had 3 auditors in 14 months.
Yeah.
And even though that's a very unusual situation, it's not unusual to have 2 of something in 14 months. And people would be on this roller coaster ride. Who's going to come devote their professional experience to the state, which already has a vacancy crisis, if it's just an absolute roulette table of, are you going to be okay in your job?
Yeah, and these folks are raw. I mean, we're hearing from them because they don't want to say anything because they feel insecure on the job right now.
Which
so
is
they're
why we
contacting
exist.
us.
Yeah, because they can't say it.
Exactly. We can.
And that's the thing. Even if they all agreed with Bullock and they thought he was great and all the current employees there wanted to be exempt, and even if all the people he brought in wanted to be exempt, it's still not the right thing to do, right? Because it's not just about Dave Bullock. It's about state government.
Well, it's about taxpayers getting professional level
Right.
services.
So this is about making sure you're hiring people based on merit and not politics, which is the opposite if you're keeping or hiring or disciplining based on just whatever the politician wants with no checks or balances from an HR department. And that's the main thing. Merit does matter. And as we were saying in committee the other day, we need the best person for each state job. The taxpayers deserve the best person, not the best connected person.
And it's kind of ironic and kind of funny that these are the same arguments, or maybe the mirror of the arguments that those people are making about the DEI bill, right?
Well, that was actually what was the most crazy making about this is, and we've shared this with folks in the legislature, we're so confused because 1 minute this matters very much, that people, no group of any kind is given any kind of preference. And then the next minute, anybody that's in well enough with a politician has a leg up on everybody else, and this fair, open hiring practices that are part of the State Human Resources Act would be thrown out the window. There's other things, though, in the State Human Resources Act, like confidential information. That act doesn't just give employees rights, it has responsibilities. It requires employees to keep anything they see confidential that's in records and whatnot. But that would go out the window. The question, though, becomes if you're looking for efficiencies, which is what we know everybody is, the governor, the House, the Senate, everybody wants efficiencies, and they should. How efficient is it going to be if people feel like, oh my goodness, I don't know if I want to point out that we're doing something inefficient because I don't have job protections. If I point out that we're being inefficient and just have a suggestion on how we could be more efficient, I very well could be packing up my desk.
Yeah.
So the sponsor of this bill, Representative Brendan Jones, said this on the floor yesterday about another bill that he was, but I thought it was appropriate for this discussion.
Yeah.
So we'll stick it in here.
We are simply enforcing the principle already in North Carolina law. Public jobs should go to the most qualified, not the most politically favored. The next section is
right there.
That's exactly what Bill 549 is giving them the ability to do, is to give them positions based on political favor rather than...
Right, to go to people who are politically favored. A political appointee is, by its very definition, politically favored. So that's why we're confused and how we're outraged. Because, again, if this bill moves the rest of the way through the House and the Senate and becomes law, every agency will be wanting the same power. I mean...
Sure they will.
Who wouldn't?
Yeah.
And there's a fair amount of confusion amongst the members of the legislature, too. I mean, we've talked to a lot of people this week about House Bill 549, and there is some confusion about
tons.
Merit or not merit, are we in or are we out?
Why do they want it?
Yeah.
I've heard that a lot.
I can't answer that question.
Yeah, we don't know.
This is why members need to care about this issue. Even if you don't work at the state auditor's office, what did you say earlier?
If you're a taxpayer, you should care because you should want your tax dollars hiring the best, not the best connected.
Especially at the state auditor's office.
Especially.
Yes, it's so sensitive.
So important.
It's an important agency.
Seems like this issue comes up almost every year.
Oh, it
in
does.
some form or another.
You know, the UNC system went for it a number of times over the years, and then
Yeah.
there have been others. It's just every now and then somebody really thinks
And that's the way to.
this is.
Those pesky regulations.
Yeah, sometimes they'll call it red tape, and I'm like, and I had a conversation with a legislator yesterday where he said, look, I just have more faith in people than to think they're going to go in and just wholesale get rid of people that disagree with them. And the unfortunate reality is the reason the law's there is that did happen. And it didn't happen every time, but even one time is more than the taxpayers should have to have to deal with.
Feels more like they're ripping away their bubble wrap of protection rather than tearing through some red tape.
That's a great analogy,
Yeah.
Sam.
That's a great analogy. It just doesn't make sense. No one has articulated a good or compelling governmental reason to do it at all.
I mean, I think there's plenty of reasons to do it. They're just not.
Well, they're
good
not.
ones.
They're not compelling reasons for the government to take away rights.
Having a vision for your agency is not a reason.
I mean,
You should have
everybody
a
that comes
vision,
in has a
but
vision for their
having a
agency.
vision is, not the reason.
Yeah. Well, what other topics came up this week? Anything?
Look.
Everything?
That's been big. Oh, once we got the word from Representative Lambeth about budget, it's just been covering bills. Next week is crossover week. Crossover deadline is May 8th, which means that any bill that's been filed in either chamber has to pass that chamber and cross over to the other chamber to stay alive for this session. So this week's been crazy. Next week will be insane. They're going to move bills as hard as they can go. So.
Yeah. And as
It'll
far
be
as state
intense.
employees, the DEI bill banning DEI in state government did pass the House just yesterday.
Mhm.
And so that will now go to the Senate. But Suzanne's right. It's mainly budget. And our president, Kirk Montgomery, came down this week.
Mhm.
And Sam and I spent the day with him. That was on Tuesday. That was the same day as 549 was heard in committee. That was an eye-opener for him as well as a civilian.
Seemed like he had a very productive day, a
He
very
did.
busy day as well, right?
He met with several appropriations chairs to talk about the budget and about what scenic members
Mhm.
are looking for in that and to represent their interests there. So we appreciate President Montgomery coming down and taking a lot of time on a pretty grueling legislative day,
Yeah.
as legislative days go.
I was excited because my college was there. I got to.
Yeah, it was like UNC Day at
It
the.
was.
Yeah, I saw the mascots out on the lawn or something, right?
And Western
High school and a
Carolina.
robot.
Yeah, hers had a robot. He was
Oh,
cool. It was like
yeah.
a robot dog.
I got a picture with the robot.
It is important to note that Sam took a picture with the dog robot.
I did.
And the oddest thing about the dog robot is that everybody that came up to it was like kicking it over.
They wanted to kick it.
Is that what a catamount
I
is?
felt so bad. No! A catamount is like a smaller version of a bobcat mountain lion.
But
If
why
you
were
say
they
so.
kicking the?
Because if you kick it, it doesn't fall over.
It would get back up.
And it knows how to get back up if it does fall over.
Yeah, I don't want.
And so people were like, "Oh my gosh, I want to kick it!" And I'm
It just
like,
felt wrong to watch it, but it was cool that it could get back up.
I'd have been totally.
because I did watch someone ninja kick it, and it didn't fall over.
And shout out to Christy Agner, the amazing
Yes,
government relations guru for the.
Yes,
for
she's
Western
been busy
Carolina.
this week.
She's fighting very hard. If
Yeah.
any of you work at Western Carolina, you've got a heck of a fighter
Indeed.
for your rights and your pay. It's such a big issue. We should give this a moment since the UNC system was out there. It's
No.
really hard to live in those places and on a state salary. So
It's really expensive to live up there. Like the college and off-campus dorms, those are cheaper, and you don't, because there's not a lot of competition. There is not a lot of apartment competition, so those ones they can kind of keep it lower priced for the
and they
college
can't
student.
drive in from a half hour or
No.
45 minutes away.
No, and there's not,
at
not
a price
anywhere.
point, they
Yeah.
can.
yeah, because Asheville, if people were to stay in Asheville, they would not be able to afford
So
as college.
this is
Yeah.
becoming a bigger and bigger issue for folks who work at these universities. We have a beautiful state. An awful lot of it is tourist area, and that's awesome. If you own property there, that's awesome. If you're needing to work there and try to find someplace to rent or own, it's getting really, really priced out of anybody's range that's in state government. Even the most professional positions at Western Carolina, they're just not able to afford it. And that's true at Asheville and Boone and I'm sure Wilmington and then Chapel Hill. You've
Yeah.
they have to keep driving in from further and further out there. So folks in our university system, we are aware of that issue. And
so many of my professors and just professors at Western in general would live in Waynesville and Asheville, which is half an hour to an hour away, or live at the state border of like right next to South Carolina, where they'd be driving like an hour and 15 minutes to come to campus because there's not enough housing around Silva. It's very, very small. It's basically the college and a couple stores. It's very small, very beautiful though. And so there's not a lot of housing or places to live around there. And the things that are there are super expensive because it's in the middle of nowhere and people are wanting to get to that and get away from the massive cities.
Yeah.
so
the
these
expensive
chancellors
stuff.
at these universities in touristy areas are having to pull a rabbit out of a hat to keep good quality people and keep them coming. So again, my hat's off to the people that work there. My hat's off to all those chancellors. It is not easy. But thank you for what you do. And it was cool to see all your mascots. John, you were just talking about them.
Yeah, the mascots were there from what I saw on Twitter.
What's your favorite?
Oh, man. More than one legislator got their picture taken with, I guess, most of the mascots from their area. Ramesses is obviously the best one, right? UNC. But I'm going to have to give it to that Fayetteville State Bronco. That's pretty cool.
That is very cool.
I like that one.
Biased. I love Paws. I love him.
You
Wait,
love the catamount.
So much fun.
Winston-Salem State's Ram is pretty cool, too.
Their ram, I
It's
think,
red.
is very cool.
Yeah.
It's got the right expression.
School of the Arts, we're not sure exactly what yours is, but it's pretty cool, too. Maybe
We
we'll
love
get
the
an
School of the Arts.
explanation.
If you're listening, we love you. Thank you
looks
for the
like
work
a-
you do.
It kind of looks like
They have a lot of scenic members there. Don't rag on their mascot.
No, it kind of looks like
See it? I
a
can't remember.
cucumber painter.
Oh, yeah, the pickle. Yeah, of
Pickle.
course. Why am I?
It's a pickle and
It
a
is
painter.
pickle, for real.
Okay.
It looks like VeggieTales.
Yeah. Oh, is that their mascot, the pickles?
It is the pickle.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's cool. I'm sorry about that.
How did I not know that? I'm obsessed with pickles.
We
I
had
would've-
the Charlotte 49er was there. I missed
The
a
49er's cool, but I've always been confused. The 49er and the Appalachian State Mountaineer to me
Are very similar.
are very similar.
Mm.
But the School of the Arts, you want to know the deal with the pickle?
The deal with the pickle. The deal with the pickle.
You know?
Did you do that
That's
on
cute, the
purpose?
deal.
She's got
Of course I did not. I'm not punny. So, according to AI, because, that's the new thing, we're going to use AI. The name originated from a contest in the 1970s to name the school's touch football team, where a group of students submitted the pickles as a joke. The Fighting Pickles have become a beloved symbol of the UNC School of the Arts with various campus locations and events featuring the mascot. That's awesome. They win. I'm sorry. That's
Go Pickles.
So
Fighting
I'm sorry
pickle.
I ragged on your
See, they came up with their
mascot.
mascot name the same way that we came up with ours.
Oh, yeah, we have
We
a
asked the people.
mascot. We don't
should've
talk
taken
about
our
that.
mascot.
It's always
We-
good to ask
we
the
should have.
people.
We didn't know this. Next year, write it down, April 29th.
Well, I mean, it's not our event. We wouldn't be invited.
yeah,
but
you got to invite us.
but
to
ours
that.
could run through and just challenge
Yeah.
the other mascot. But yes, Scenic has a mascot.
and
We're-
his name is C. Nick Strong.
C. Period Nick Strong. That's pretty good.
he's very cool, very
He's
wide.
very large, yeah.
large.
Yeah,
But
requires
Short
handlers.
too. He's very short.
Yeah.
Well, I guess depending on who's wearing him, right?
So I say we can get someone up to the height of 6'2".
We gotta
It's
get
just
Char- we
no
gotta
one
get-
that tall
Oh,
to do
Chris
it.
Haley is what 6'2".
He is
At
taller than
least.
6'2".
Yeah.
He's too tall for the mascot.
Personally, I'm down here at
costume.
5 foot thinking
He's way over 6'2". He can't
Oh,
wear
is
the
he? He
mascot.
can't- oh,
yeah.
okay.
Way too
Chris-
tall.
Chris Haley, one of our lobbyists. What's up, Chris? Yay!
We tried. We tried it.
Oh, you tried to get him to do it?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
No, he's really tall.
Well, now it's time for John's Wacky Weird question of the week to wrap this
Yay.
Wow.
shenanigans up.
Already?
Oh, hold up. If you're
Oh.
a state employee, all the stuff we just talked about with the budget, with the auditor's bill, Suzanne, tell them what they can do about this.
Yeah, so the bill, we've been told, is going to be placed on the House calendar on the House floor for Tuesday. So we are lining up an event. If you can be at the legislature at 1 o'clock, we want to gather some scenic members to take you around, let you talk to legislators and tell them how detrimentally this would affect, maybe your current job, but also, your colleagues in state government. Scenic will provide transportation from our office here if you need it, or you can just come downtown. So check.
Wear
check your
blue,
email.
wear scenic blue.
Yeah, wear your scenic blue. Check your email. Email went out already.
It'll be in the scoop
It'll be
on
in
Friday.
the scoop. Okay, so
It'll
check the
have gone
scoop.
out by time we.
Yeah.
It's a great
Perfect.
time
Really
to to talk to House
Yes.
members about the budget and to defend the rights. If you're an active state employee, to defend your own rights. If you're not, to defend your right as a taxpayer
Yeah.
to have employees who are accountable to you
Mm-hmm.
and not a politician. But we did leave out one other thing, this piece of news. It's so current. We have a new DMV commissioner.
Oh, really?
Yes, Paul Tyne, who's a former representative.
Oh, yeah. I've heard that name.
And
Mhm.
I think he was very respected when he was in the General
too.
Assembly, and he's a very
Yeah, we worked
rational,
with
and
him.
yeah, we worked very well with him as an organization. So congratulations to Paul Tyne. That's something I think so far everybody seems very pleased
Yeah.
with that appointment, and
Good luck to that man.
I know it, but he knows what he's taken on because he's been a legislator and
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
he knows how choked for
Yeah.
funding that agency's been.
Just to reiterate, that's Tuesday. We're going to gather probably around 1 o'clock at the legislature, right?
Correct.
And
If you come
Tuesdays-
to the office before then, well, this will all be in the scoop, but
Tuesday is May 6th, by
Yeah.
the way.
Yeah.
May
come-
6th.
then we'll make an arrangement to get you downtown somehow. We may all just drive people down.
Yeah.
But the vote will probably be about 3:30 or
Well,
so.
so they
right?
usually convene 9:30 or 10 just to convene session in the morning, then they recess the majority of the time till about 4. So session may start at 4:45.
And we're still
Um,
hopeful that by the time there's a vote, maybe this thing has changed
Yeah.
and becomes more reasonable.
I mean,
I don't know.
apparently there's that possibility. We were told by,
Yeah.
several legislators
think,
today
yeah.
that the work continues.
There seems
So,
to be a sincere
yeah, there
desire among a lot of Republicans that are trying hard to see that something agreeable to everybody
Yeah.
can get worked out. So thank you to the legislators who are not just listening to us nonstop about this thing, but are working to get the best thing for the people as a result. And
We appreciate
and for
it.
the agency head at the same time.
And even if it does change, you can still come down and
Still need you
Yeah.
to lobby the budget.
Exactly.
cool. Well, now it's time for John's Wacky Weird Question of the Week.
John's wacky weird question of the week.
Okay, so I put a lot of thought into this one. Actually, I didn't, but I do have an interesting one, I think. It may fall flat, but whatever. What is something new that you're into that you think folks should know about? It can be a movie, a book, a show, anything in the world. And I say this because my new obsession is this TikTok kind of series that's going on. It started out as a Reddit post, right? Now, did you drive to Florida last week?
A couple weeks ago, yeah.
Okay, so you drove down I-95, right?
Yes.
So this started as a Reddit post that this family was driving down I-95 and you get to South Georgia, there's nothing forever.
Yes. That
And-
was so beautiful. The Brunswick Island.
Yeah, but there's no
Yeah, it's
stop.
nothing, which is awesome. Yeah.
So they I think they were running out of gas or they had to use the bathroom or something. So they pulled off onto a interchange that it said there was gas, but it was no arrow or anything.
Yeah.
So they started driving to the right and it was forever, 8-9 miles.
Mhm.
They finally came up on this little tiny store, right? And they go in, and the person in there, it looked like they were from the 80s. The customer, the person's behind the counter, right?
Yeah.
And he was just stunned and just staring at them and did not move, right? So then they went ahead and used the bathroom and they left, right?
Right.
So then they got back in their car and they drove back towards the interstate and they drove and drove and drove and they passed this same store without turning around or anything twice, they said. They finally got to the interstate and then they took off towards Florida and was the weirdest situation ever, right? I know, I've blown your minds
So
already,
wait a minute.
right?
So what would the new
Is there,
hobby
a
be?
warm-
No. So then this turned into a TikTok series where this woman explained this Reddit post, right? So then there was this other guy who saw the TikTok and was like, wait a minute, this sounds just like my dad's story from the 80s. So apparently his dad was worked at a gas station in the area, came home one day and was like, you're never going to believe what happened. These people from the future came in my store and told him all this stuff about those same
This is
people.
marijuana Reddit.
So,
This is some kind of marijuana.
so I'm
Reddit.
90% sure that this is made up and
This
not
is
real.
some Groundhog Day.
Oh, but it got really weird. And so then the people started commenting on the TikTok and the family started. So it turns out they thought that the dad was a drug addict and crazy because he held on to this one story his whole life about these people from the future coming to his gas station. It is pretty mind
That's a
blowing.
real
Okay,
deal.
again, what's
Thanks,
the new
John.
hobby out of all that?
No, it's just my new obsession.
The obsession is
reading
this Reddit thread.
Getting on the marijuana Reddit's your new
Yeah. Well, it's not legal here. I mean, never mind.
Just quit while your head
But
comes there.
it's very interesting. So check that out. I'm like 93% sure it's probably made up and fake, but on the off chance that it's not, it's pretty awesome.
Still funny. Back to the Future.
Yeah.
Or
So
Groundhog Day.
what are y'all into these days?
Nothing that interesting.
Well,
Oh, Sam's got
I can
one.
go.
Okay.
One thing that has been very popular on TikTok recently that I have fallen in love with, because anyone who knows me really well knows that I love seafood. I'm obsessed with seafood.
yeah, you are.
And I have gotten really into tin fish plates. And I've learned how to make tinned oysters Rockefeller, like a tin of oysters that you can get for $2 or $3 at the store. And I've learned how to make oysters Rockefeller, and it's really, really good with like kettle cooked chips. And then I've also been making like different sauces to put on tinned salmon, tinned mussels.
Sammy is quite
It's
a
so
cook.
good.
So I'm not going to alarm you guys or anything, I hope, but my other question was, what is your favorite seafood?
Oh, that's funny.
So-
See?
See?
Doo-doo-doo-doo.
Anyway,
Oysters.
so you mean tin, like
Like a
sardines
tin.
come in a
So
tin?
you're going to
Yeah.
lay off that for a while, right? Because we are no longer in an R month, and that is a real thing with oysters.
Yeah.
They're
They're
canned.
not.
They're tinned.
Yeah.
They're,
Ooh. Oh,
And
goodness.
then I
didn't
make
know.
them into oysters Rockefeller.
We have some
broil
of the
them in
most
other
delicious
oven
real
for a
oysters in
minute.
the world at our coast.
And I am too broke to buy them.
so,
I wondered how you were getting them $2 to $3. I thought you meant you're doing
However-
something in a cooking tin with them, not that they came in a tin. Bleh.
However, I will give you this.
What?
Whole Foods has $2 oysters that they will shuck for you every Friday.
Good to know.
Huh.
I feel like you're not getting many oysters for $2.
You get as many as you want. It's a $2 for one oyster, and you can just buy as
$2
many as
for
you want.
one. Oh,
yeah,
man.
and they'll shuck it for you.
Take me like $40.
I was going to say, man, I'm going to need at least 20. How many?
I've never really gotten into oysters. I guess
A bushel is usually like
Shrimp-
tinted balls.
shrimp
So
is
good.
about
Okay.
scallops are
Yeah.
probably as far as
Ooh,
I go.
Love those too. And mussels.
Yeah.
I love any shellfish, clams,
Shrimp
oysters,
is
mussels.
probably my least
shrimp.
favorite.
Clearly, I should have gone with the seafood question.
No crab legs.
Anything food for us always.
But I did get to
do
tell
have an
my story.
obsession. You
Okay.
did.
Yes.
And my thing lately, I'm a big reader, so I have been working my way down banned books.
Oh,
Which I had already read.
I
Yeah, I had already read Toni Morrison. You know, she's amazing and wonderful. But I just read Kindred, Octavia Butler. Holy cow. That book will stick with me forever. But I mean, some of these books I haven't read. So
So let me ask you, do you think that the banishments are warranted, or can you see why that book would be banished?
I cannot.
Okay.
I mean, I can,
Banned?
but, you know,
Do
I'll
you
just leave that alone.
but what you do know
I'm building a library of those kind of books to make sure that my granddaughters have them to read.
That is why my parents have a bunch of Dr. Seuss books, because there were certain Dr. Seuss books that were getting banned. And
Yeah.
my mom said, I am buying every single one of those books before it gets banned because I read those to you when you guys were little.
Yeah. So anything with books, I'm obsessed. Anything with
I do have a question about that, though.
Sure.
Is Hunger Games on that? Because I have been seeing a lot of things talking about they're possibly going to put Hunger Games on the banned book list.
I don't know that it's on the list. I haven't seen that, but I wouldn't read that. I mean, that
That-
just wouldn't be my thing.
Oh.
And my mom kind of just
I
realized
thought you
this
just were
over the
averse
weekend.
to it.
So we realized over the weekend that was like, because that's a book that's stuck with me my whole life. I have read every single book in the series. There's 3 for the original, and then they just started releasing kind of standalones that are
Mhm.
prequels. I read every single one of them, and I read them in like 2 days. And my mom knows I'm obsessed with them. Every time the movie comes out, I'm there. Every time a book comes out, I buy it almost immediately
Now-
and read it.
A Court of Thorns and Roses. I got down with that series. That was really good. We're off in our own little world, Sammy and I.
Literary.
And
I-95. Like you going south,
Look,
there was a store.
There was a
And there was
store.
no
But my mom figured out the reason that book stuck with me for so long and has stuck with me as a series is because that was one of the first book series that I ever read where I got to be shown a strong female lead who's
Yeah.
absolutely determined to get what needs to be done.
And did.
Done. And
now
did.
you have Taylor Swift.
And then we have Taylor Swift.
That was my music. But the first book I ever read that showed a truly empowered female character.
Yeah.
Cher was
Hunger Games.
Cher was my first truly empowered female character.
Mm-hmm.
I like Jennifer,
Funny, I watched
Jennifer
Mermaids last night.
Lawrence, right?
I love that movie. Burlesque.
Mermaids. I
Christina
think that's my
Aguilera.
favorite.
Oh, wow. Okay, what about you, artists? You have anything cool going on?
No. Well, I mean, I'm not a big
House Bill 549.
Yeah, I know.
That's
I'm
her
so bored.
current obsession.
Actually, I am doing the way, instead of just scrolling or something like that, if I've got some downtime, I've gone to Duolingo because I'm too cheap to do anything else. And because I took French in school, I'm doing French and
Nice.
just having fun with completing those little exercises. And
Yeah, that's fun. My daughter does.
bonjour.
Bonjour.
My daughter is.
We're about to be au revoir.
When are we going to get you to?
Your daughter's taking French?
No, she's doing the Duolingo Spanish
Ooh.
because she has a lot
hard
of
if you-
Hispanic classmates and she wants to talk to them.
That's
Yeah, that's
awesome,
awesome.
Clara.
Yeah. So
And
she-
I had wanted to do that, but I thought, I'm worried that I would just not do well if I don't have any
yeah.
previous experience with it. So we'll see. I would love to learn to speak Spanish.
Well, aren't those languages kind of similar, like a romantic
Oh,
language?
I don't
or-
I
know.
don't know that, but
I really don't know. They might be.
I know the numbers are similar.
Yeah.
When you're counting. Uno. Un,
I would love to speak Spanish, though.
dos.
Yeah, that'd be
dos.
cool.
That's aspirational.
Well, that was a good week with several tangents, but I think we did pretty
thank
well.
you for the decompression. This was a good
Yeah.
podcast.
Yeah. Thank you for making time out of your week to join us, and we'll see you next week.
Au revoir.